It is a Saturday night. You are at dinner with friends. The waiter comes around. Everyone starts ordering. Someone gets the steak, rare. Someone changes their mind twice and lands on the pasta. Someone orders a cocktail with a name no one can pronounce, and the whole table laughs. Your turn, and something happens that no one at the table notices. Because it takes less than a second, and you have been doing it your entire life, you scan, not the menu, the room. You check the face of the person sitting across from you. You check the energy of the table. You calculate, in a part of your brain that has no name and no off switch, whether what you're about to say will land safely, whether your choice is too expensive, too indulgent, too different from what everyone else ordered, whether the waiter will judge you, whether the friend who is trying to eat healthier will feel bad if you order dessert. This takes less than a second. You have been doing it since you were 4. You order the salad. You wanted the short rib. And if you are thinking, I am just polite, sure, that is what I called it. For 27 years. If I asked you why you didn't order what you wanted, you would say something reasonable. I wasn't that hungry. It is too heavy for dinner. I am trying to eat lighter. And none of that would be a lie. Not exactly. It would be a reason that sits on top of the real reason, like a tablecloth over a stain. Clean enough, smooth enough. No one would ever lift it. But you know, somewhere in a part of you that is older than language, you know that what just happened at that table was not a dinner order. It was a threat assessment, a micro-negotiation between what you want and what the room can tolerate. And you have been running this negotiation every single day of your life, at work, in relationships, in text messages, where you rewrite the same sentence 4 times before sending the version that asks for the least. You are not indecisive. You are not too nice. You are not a people pleaser, though the world will call you that, and you will accept the label, because accepting labels other people give you is the thing you do best. What you are is someone who learned, very early, that your safety depended on reading the room before you existed in it. You learned to read every room before you walked in. That kept you safe, but you are not in that room anymore. Here is what happened to you, and I want to be precise about this, because you deserve precision, not poetry. Not tonight. Your nervous system learned something before your conscious mind had any say in the matter. Porges, the neuroscientist who developed polyvagal theory, calls it neuroception, the body's ability to detect safety or danger without involving the thinking brain. Polyvagal theory is one lens. Not everyone in neuroscience loves the model, but whether or not you love the framework, the pattern it describes, is real. It happens below awareness, below choice, below language. Your autonomic nervous system is scanning the environment, facial expressions, vocal tones, micro shifts in posture, and making a verdict before you have finished your first thought. In a safe environment, neuroception stays quiet. It does its job in the background, the way a smoke detector sits on the ceiling and you forget it exists. But in an environment where safety was conditional, where love had a price list, where approval was earned and revoked on a schedule you could never quite predict, neuroception does not stay quiet. It becomes the loudest system in the room. It becomes you. In practice, it looks like this. You rewrite a text 4 times before sending the version that asks for the least. You say, I don't mind. You pick so often. It has become your autopilot. You feel a strange guilt when you rest, not because you are lazy, but because unmonitored space still feels like dangerous space. You did not choose to scan the room before ordering dinner. Your body chose for you because the last time you made a choice without scanning first, something happened. Maybe it was a sigh. Maybe it was a silence that lasted 3 seconds too long. Maybe it was a look on your mother's face that said, without saying anything, that you had made the wrong move. You were not abused. Let me be clear about that, because I know the word you are resisting right now, and I am not using it. What happened to you may not have been abuse. It may have been a perfectly ordinary household with a perfectly ordinary parent who loved you in the only way they knew how, which happened to be a way that required you to be someone other than yourself. Donald Winnicott, the British psychoanalyst who spent his career watching the space between mothers and infants, gave this adaptation a name that is almost too honest to bear. He called it the false self, not a mask, not a performance, not something you put on and take off. The false self is what forms when a child learns that their spontaneous gestures, their impulses, their desires, their instinctive reach toward the world, are not met with welcome. They are met with correction, with redirection, with a face that says, "Not that, try again." And so the child tries again and again, and each time the child gets a little better at producing the gesture that gets the right response, and a little worse at remembering what the original gesture was. This is not rebellion suppressed. This is something quieter and more total. This is a self that was never allowed to begin. You are not too sensitive. You are too trained. You did not lose yourself. You never got the chance to find yourself. The search was interrupted before it started by a parent who needed you to be legible, manageable, good, not because they were cruel, because they were never allowed to be illegible either, because someone once stood over them at a table and watched their hand too. But here is the part no one tells you. The false self works. It works beautifully. It gets you through childhood. It gets you through school. It gets you through job interviews and first dates and family dinners where the tension is thick enough to cut, but everyone pretends they cannot feel it. It works so well that you begin to mistake it for who you are. And the moment that happens, the moment the mask fuses to the face, something inside you goes quiet. Not loud quiet, not dramatic quiet. Quiet the way a room goes quiet when someone has left it so long ago that you have forgotten there was ever anyone there. That quiet is the space where your true self was supposed to live. And here is where it gets worse. Because the world did not just fail to notice what happened to you. The world rewarded it. Every performance review that praised you for being easy to work with. Every relationship where your partner said you were. Every friendship where you were the one everyone came to because you never made things about yourself. Every time someone called you mature when you were 12, which is a word adults use for children who have already learned to abandon their own needs. You were not born accommodating. You were shaped, and then the shape was applauded. Arlie Hochschild, the sociologist who coined the term emotional labor in 1983, was writing about flight attendants, women paid to manage the emotions of strangers at 30,000 feet. She showed how the performance of warmth, of calm, of pleasantness was not a byproduct of the job. It was the job, and over time, it colonized the self. The workers could no longer tell where the performance ended, and they began. You do not work at 30,000 feet, but you perform the same labor at every altitude. At the dinner table, in the group chat, in the way you modulate your voice on a phone call, depending on who picked up. You have been doing emotional labor since before you had a name for it. Since before Hochschild had a name for it. Since the first time you made yourself smaller so someone else could feel bigger, and the modern world has built an entire economy on your willingness to keep doing it. Byung-Chul, the Korean-German philosopher, argues that we have moved from a disciplinary society, one that controls you through external rules, to an achievement society, one that controls you by making you the agent of your own exploitation. You do not need a boss standing over you. You do not need a parent watching your hand. You have internalized the watcher. You are the watcher now. The inbox that you check at 11 p.m. is not your employer's demand. It is your nervous system's demand. The one that learned decades ago that unmonitored space is dangerous space. That if you stop scanning, something bad will happen. That rest is a risk you cannot afford. This is not high emotional intelligence. This is a wound that got promoted, and the cruelest part, the very trait that was born from your pain, your ability to read a room, to anticipate needs, to make other people feel comfortable, has become the thing the world values most about you. Your trauma response has a LinkedIn endorsement. Your survival mechanism has a job title. Your disappearance has been rebranded as a skill. So you keep performing, not because you want to, because stopping feels like the most dangerous thing you could do. Because the last time you stopped performing, the last time you said what you actually thought, or ordered what you actually wanted, or sat in a room without monitoring every face in it, the silence that followed felt like falling. You learned to read every room before you walked in, and the world paid you for it. But you are not in that room anymore. There is a passage in Kierkegaard, and I am not bringing him up to sound smart. I am bringing him up because he described something in 1849 that I have not found a better description of since. He said that the deepest form of despair is not knowing you are in despair. Not the despair of losing something, not the despair of wanting something you cannot have, the despair of living an entire life that was never yours, and not knowing it, the despair of being so perfectly adapted to other people, as expectations that you have no idea what you would choose if no one were watching. Sit with that for a second, not, what do you want? That question is too big. It paralyzes people like you, because you have spent so long calibrating to what others want, that the question feels like being asked to speak a language you were never taught. Try a smaller question. When was the last time you did something, anything, without first checking whether it was okay? Not checking with another person, checking with the voice. The one inside you that sounds like your own thoughts, but is not. The one that performs a quiet audit before every action. Is this too much? Will this upset someone? Am I being selfish? Am I being difficult? Am I being too much? That voice is the internalized version of the face that watched you at the table when you were small. It has been with you so long that you cannot hear it as separate from yourself. It has your intonation. It uses your vocabulary. It feels like conscience. It feels like maturity. It feels like maturity. It feels like the part of you that keeps you safe. It is not keeping you safe. It is keeping you gone. Indecision is not confusion. It is obedience to a room that no longer exists. Winnicott wrote, and this is one of the most devastating sentences in all of psychoanalytic literature, that a false self can be so successful that the person living inside it does not know they are missing. They function, they achieve, they are admired. And somewhere beneath all of it, the true self has not been destroyed, it has been suspended. Frozen at the age it was last allowed to exist, reaching toward the world with a gesture that was never completed. You are not broken. I want to be very clear about that. You are not damaged, and you are not defective, and you do not need to be fixed. What you are is someone who adapted so completely to an unsafe environment that the adaptation became invisible, even to you, and the grief you may be feeling right now, if you are feeling it, is not the grief of something that was taken from you. It is the grief of something that was never allowed to begin, a self you never met, a life that was yours, but was lived by someone else. Someone who looked like you and used your name and answered to your voice, but was, in the deepest sense, a stand-in. That grief is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is a sign that something right inside you is finally waking up. I am not going to tell you to set boundaries. I am not going to tell you to put yourself first or stop caring what other people think. Those are instructions for people who have a self to put first. You are still finding yours. So here is what I am going to suggest instead. And it is going to sound small. That is on purpose. The next time you are at a table, any room, any moment where a choice is being asked of you, before you answer, pause. Not a long pause, not a dramatic pause. Second, where you do not scan, where you do not check the room, where you do not run the calculation. In that half second, ask yourself one question. If no one at this table would be upset, what would I want? You do not have to say it out loud. You do not have to act on it. You do not have to change anything tonight. You just have to hear the answer. Let it exist inside you, even if it never leaves your mouth. Even if you still order the salad. Even if you still send the safe text. Even if you still say, I don't mind, you choose. Because the point is not the choice. The point is that you heard yourself. Maybe for the first time, maybe for the first time, in a very long time. Winnicott believed that the true self announces itself through what he called a spontaneous gesture, an impulse that arises before the sensor catches it. It does not have to be large. It does not have to be brave. It can be as small as knowing what you want for dinner, as small as laughing before you check whether laughing is appropriate, as small as a hand reaching for something, not because it was told to, but because it wanted to. That is not a revolution, that is a beginning. She orders the short rib, the table continues. No one reacts, no one needed to. The room was safe the whole time. You learned to read every room before you walked in. You can stop now. You are not in that room anymore. If you have spent your life making yourself easy to be around, if the thing people admire most about you is the thing that cost you the most, you do not have to unlearn it tonight. You do not have to become difficult or selfish or loud. You just have to let yourself want something, quietly, without asking permission. What is the short rib for you? The thing you always wanted but never ordered because the room felt safer if you did. You do not have to explain the whole story. Just name the short rib, That is what this channel is for. Not answers. Just someone saying, at whatever hour you are hearing this, you are allowed to take up space, even if no one taught you how. I will see you next time.